Aaron Smith.
Jason Thomas, hello.
It's an exciting Monday. I mean, look at the audience numbers. I mean,
whoa.
This is, as charming and as interesting as we are on camera when talking about bowling that's not happening. It pales in comparison to talking about bowling that has actually happened, which is what we're going to do today.
Absolutely. Definitely a fun and energetic chat planned here for the PWBA podcast today. Obviously, for all the bowling fans out there, I'm sure you were watching FS1 yesterday, the PBA League kicking off its quarterfinals after qualifying on Saturday. 12 teams. It's been a long wait, but it happened in Centerville, Virginia. Bolero Centerville, the host. 12 great teams made up of PBA and PWBA stars, the Phoenix Fury and Miami Waves, representing the PWBA Tour. We're pretty much going to run through the course of the weekend so far. Watched it on Saturday on Flow, transitioned to FS1. Still got one team in the bracket, which is awesome. A lot of fun, a lot of excitement watching that match yesterday. Watching both matches yesterday.
Yeah.
So with that, JT, I'll let you kind of kick things off here. It was a wild and wacky weekend.
It was. I think there were a lot of surprises, but I think they were, contained to individual things that happened. Like probably the biggest one, obviously, was Liz Johnson's performance. I think that was probably the most shocking thing, that came across to me, which we'll talk about. But, I think the women, for those out there that didn't think they would be competitive, I think they showed that they were. Both in qualifying and in the matches. Obviously, having won one of the two matches, that proves that they're just as competitive as we thought they were. And they came pretty darn close to winning that other match as well, even though they got off to just a horrendous start on television. So, I thought there were, again, a lot of surprises, a lot of interesting things happened. We got some stats and numbers that we can run through, but overall, I was just happy to see bowling, and it was exciting to get to watch it again.
Yeah, I think that's a great point too. We've had some of the one-off events, courtesy of the PBA, King of the Lanes, the Clash, which were great to see on FS1. But yeah, the team environment, kind of seeing the qualifying out there, seeing the whole aspect of it, kind of the full scope of a tournament. Kind of getting back to those 12-hour days that we love so much, and just kind of taking it all in. The only difference was I could do it on my couch and eat chips instead of being at the bowling center. But it was fun. It was exciting, and like you said, these this, and we've had it multiple times on the podcast. We had both team managers. We had the teams on there. These are the 10 best players on the PWBA Tour from 2019 season in this league, all paired up together, and we expect them to make some waves. See what I did there?
And some fury.
And they created some fury as well. So so with that, I think we're just going to kind of run down the line here. We'll start with Saturday. We'll look at the format. Teams started getting into town on Friday. Practice day to get used to the 42-foot pattern. Mark Roth. It seemed to be pretty scoreable, pretty easy to get to the pocket throughout qualifying and as well on TV yesterday. 12 Baker games. If you're not familiar with Baker, it's super cool. We should do it more often. Leagues should be based off of it. That's just my opinion. But essentially 5 players bowl one team game. Your leadoff bowler bowls the first and the sixth. Second bowler, second, seventh, third, eighth, fourth, ninth, and fifth and 10th frame. So that team chemistry, very important. Communication, seeing the transition out there, all part of making that happen instead of having just one or two players kind of carry the team. Everybody needs to be on the same page. Through those 12 games, they got bonus pins. There are 2 divisions, Anthony and Carter, named after Earl Anthony Don Carter. They were pretty good at the bowling too. And bonus pins. So depending on which where you placed each game, you received bonus pins. So for instance, if you shot 300 like the Motown Muscle did, they not only got the 300 pins for that game, but they also got 50 bonus pins for having the high game that game. If you finish second for the game, 40, 30, 20, 10, and if you had the lowest score, you got 0. The bonus pins really didn't affect anything too much. There was only one change that would have happened that did or would have resulted in a bye for the Silver Lake Atom Splitters, which I'm sure they wish they had right now.
Oh yeah,
but we'll talk about that in a little bit. So that was kind of the format going in, and as we said, it was pretty high scoring throughout the course of qualifying. Both PWBA teams averaged right around 220, but they were in the lower half of the field. So JT, you know, we kind of talked to some folks a little bit earlier today, and just, you know, how folks approach qualifying, and it's more of a learning session, trying to get to know, absorb information. So when you see scores that high, just, you know, what were you expecting the rest of the way out?
Yeah, it wasn't surprising to see how they stacked up. You know, it was you assumed, you know, in that format that the women would have a little bit of trouble keeping up with the transition, just because, you know, they're on the lower end of the spectrum in terms of rev rate, and they would have some issues with carry. And, you know, I think when the women have traditionally competed with the men recently, they do it on tougher patterns, you know, in an individual environment. And so we've seen them have quite a bit of success, you know, whether it be the US Open or the Masters, or, you know, some of these other events where, you know, the major tournament conditions are a little more demanding than the condition that was put out for this particular event. This particular event was probably about as close to when we say carry contest as you're going to get in a professional tournament. They were still professional conditions, and if you miss by enough, you could miss the pocket. But it was pretty tough to miss the pocket. And then, you know, when you're basically giving everybody the pocket, you know, typically the players who throw the most aggressive. Throw it the most aggressively will win. So over qualifying, it wasn't surprising to see, you know, what happened. You know, the both the team, you know, one team beat one team in one of the divisions, but they were both competitive. I mean, it's not like they lost by 500 pins, right? I mean, it was they hung in there. But, you know, you magnify those, you know, however many flat tens and ring tens they're leaving over the course of the number of qualifying games, and that's just what's going to happen.
Absolutely, and you know, that was you know, just kind of tracking the scores throughout the course of the competition. There were definitely some high games out there. The Motown Muscle averaged 243. We mentioned they shot a Baker 300. Portland, the defending champion, did as well. But that was kind of the one thing that the women's teams really did. They were probably the more consistent group overall. Really didn't have too many highs, too many lows, but you know, they weren't hitting the 250s, 260s, 270s out there. Closing 10th frames was kind of, you know, there weren't a lot of doubles in the 10th frame between both teams. So obviously, you know, those pins add up over the course of 12 games. But one of the interesting aspects, of course, in the COVID-19 world was, you know, teams didn't necessarily probably qualify like they have in the past. And so you basically stayed on your own pair for each game, bowled one game on the left lane, one game on the right lane. You weren't crossing with anyone, then you'd move on to a next set of pair. So that probably affected the transition a little bit as well throughout the course of the block. But as we mentioned, both PWBA teams competitive, a little short of the overall scoring pace. The Waves qualified 5th overall in the Anthony division, and the Fury in 6th place in the Carter division, which leads us now to Sunday, TV time. And the first matchup, or excuse me, first PWBA team to hit the lanes was the Miami Waves taking on the Bruce City Ballers, also a brand new team in 2020. They were the second match after the LAX defeated the NYC Kingpins in a high-scoring match. A whole bunch of strikes there, a lot of pins flying around for LAX. So, you know, JT, what were your thoughts kind of heading into that second match, seeing how high-scoring it was to start?
Yeah, I mean, LAX was very impressive to me. I was like, well, how did these guys not get a bye? You know, they just looked overpowering. And, you know, it felt like they were able to stay ahead of the transition. That really seemed like the only thing that could stop them, you know, right, is if they run into transition and you know, leave a few splits at inopportune times. And they were able to do that. It was nice to see Belmo, because he didn't get to bowl any of the made-for-TV events that have happened, you know, since he won the World Championship. So it was really nice to see him, and he was sharp. I know they mentioned on the show that he was basically falling asleep in the production meeting because of jet lag, but he did not look like he was not sharp on that show, and he was into it. And so that was kind of cool to see. So just going into that, you'd think, well, maybe these ladies are in a little bit of trouble. If it's going to play out that the most power is going to win, that might be a problem, for the ladies.
Now, JT, before we continue on, Belmo's shoes.
Yeah, they're awesome. I mean, I love them. I thought it was funny that Randy said, they asked for a pair, and Belmo said, no way. So I have to agree, they're dope. As Belmo, assuming he actually said those words, but Randy said they did, so he did. So you have to believe it, right?
Absolutely, that's how that works. So after that match, the Waves up against the Ballers. The Ballers team is made up of, let's see, we have Zeke Bate, Richie Dick Allen, Chris Sloan, Sean Rash, and Ryan Simonelli. So a pretty versatile team, good mix of different styles there as well. A lot of experience as well too. I know they were definitely looking to having that team over at Bayside with Dick Allen and Zeke Bate also finding some success there in the past. But it wasn't the start the Waves had hoped for. After talking to Bob Learn after the qualifying round, he felt they had even though they were a little bit farther down in the standings, he felt they were really close to having a big day. Dasha Kovalova was kind of the standout player in qualifying, I thought, from watching. She struck on 75% of her shots. So that's a pretty high percentage.
Yeah.
Missy was not too far behind that. They actually moved Missy into the anchor role for a little bit before bringing Danielle back. But got on the lanes after marking in the first frame. They ran into trouble 3 consecutive opens, and 4 of the 6 first frames opens for the Waves. What did you see out of there from them? They obviously made the adjustment to get lined up for game 2, but what was your impression kind of the start of that match besides help?
Yeah, well, the condition was very, like we mentioned, pretty soft. So there was a lot of hold in the middle part of the lane, unless you missed way left. We saw a couple, like Jordan Richard in later on in the day missed way left and the ball didn't hold. But you basically had as much room as you wanted. But they used an oil that was a lot more lugubrious than some of the other oils that you see out there. So if you missed in and still didn't miss way in, but just missed in a little bit, you could bucket or flat 10, and we saw a lot of that. A lot of shots in flat 10. Ball didn't quite get up the hill, and so I think Miami probably tried to stay to the right, as long as they could. But as the match started, I don't know how much practice they got, but I assume they got pretty decent amount of practice. They didn't.
From what Bob had told me, that essentially they just got 1 shot apiece on the lanes before they started, so they ended up being pretty fresh. So there wasn't from what I was told, there wasn't the normal 10-15 minutes to get super comfortable. We weren't there. That's what I heard. I don't have official rules in front of me. But
based on that, then Bob's assessment was that they were making tentative shots, and so I do think that was probably accurate. If there isn't transition coming into play, and you're trying to play, the dry part of the lane, and you get a little soft, you're going to go high, right? And so, although they did move after Dasha went high and split for the third time in a row, or second time in a row. Clara just missed her spare, but she went high as well. But they did move off of it. So I don't know if that meant they just decided, hey, we're throwing it soft, so we're just going to move and play it that way. But you did see that come into play later on in both the matches, really.
Absolutely, and they had the essentially Randy got to ask Bob a question during that, kind of asked him, and that's what Bob said. They're tentative, maybe a little nervous out there to start. Obviously it's been a while for some folks to compete under the bright TV lights, and that's going to happen. But he did mention after Dasha's shot, the team was going to make him move to the left. Danielle absolutely peered that shot in the fifth frame to kind of set things going, and at that point you could see the writing on the wall. Game one was going to Bruce City.
Right. Right.
But they used the opportunity to get lined up. They delivered, I believe, 4 strikes in a row.
Correct. Yeah.
To kind of get some momentum heading into game number 2. And then all of a sudden, game 2, out of nowhere, boom, front 5.
They were on it. Yeah, absolutely. And, it looked like they had all the momentum. It looked like, the guys were still pretty close. They just lost their carry a little bit. And so they fell behind. But then, momentum started shifting again. And I think that left, the left lane the left lane that Miami was bowling on started to transition, towards the latter part of the game.
That is true. Second half started off on the commercial break. Missy 210 to start to give Bruce City a little life to get back into the match, but they stayed clean the rest of the way out. But yeah, we had, let's see, Claire struck, 10-pin from Liz, Dasha trip 4, Danielle strike, and then 10-pin to get to 234, which was enough for the win to force the roll-off. The roll-off went very quickly into obviously for TV purposes, that's going to happen anyway. They want to get in there. Obviously, TV restrictions, got to get all that stuff in. But it was a very quick transition, but the team knew they had a quick second to think about it at least. Bruce City wasted no time. Sean Rash went up there, pured his shot to force Danielle to force Danielle to strike to continue the match. From what we saw in a report from Flo Bowling, she elected to make a move and ended up leaving the 2-4-5-8 the bucket. So the Bruce City Ballers advanced, eliminating the Miami Waves 2-1 in that scenario. JT, just making the move off of what you saw in the 10th frame, did you feel that was the right move for Danielle?
Yeah, I actually went back and listened to the interview again, Aaron, and she said she didn't move, but she decided to, throw the high hard one. She didn't say high hard one. She said I was going to play the in, right? So she had room to miss. And so if you went back and watched her 10th frame, her first one crossed 12.2 at the arrows and like 6.6 at the break point, and was a light mixer. And then her second shot in the 10th was 13.2 at the arrows and 7.6 at the break point, rung 10. And so, she said I was gonna play off the ring 10 shot. And she just threw it a little hard, I think. A little, you get a little adrenaline. And I think for the most part, the go-to shot for the top players on the women's tour is just pinch it in a little bit and throw it a little harder. And there was a puddle in the middle of the lane, and it just didn't hook. And so I think Danielle, if she had to do it again, probably would have moved aboard right and done the same thing. Because again, her miss to the right was a light mixer. So she moves aboard right off of that. That's flush. And then the ring 10 stays flush as well. Probably goes through the pins a little better. But, obviously Danielle is a clutch player. I mean, she threw 2 doubles in the 10th to win the U.S. Open this year. The semifinal match.
The 2 folks.
Yeah, correct. But that's a totally different environment. If you pinch it in on that condition and throw it harder, it's a strike. If you do that on a very wet, dry, easy condition, it's a bucket or a light shaker 7 or a flat 10 at best. So it's just making the shot you need to when you need it, and I think again she'll learn from it, and but unfortunately it cost them the chance to move on.
Talking with team manager Bob Learn Jr. after the loss, he was really happy with how the team rebounded after the slow start. They settled in, they got comfortable, they started playing their game and doing their thing, started making some really good shots down the stretch, and ultimately it comes down to one shot. So, Bob was pleased with the team. He was in kind of a unique situation where he was kind of getting to learn more about the players throughout the course of, leading up to this event, and, really working with them, most of them for the first time once they got to Virginia. So he was really happy with the communication, how the team worked, gelled. He told me, he said, if I can do this one more time, if I could draft the same exact 5 players, I would gladly do that. So definitely a lot to like about the Miami Waves in season number 1. Unfortunately, just a little bit short, falling in the quarterfinals to Bruce City. They will be, who are they taking on? I know I wrote this down somewhere. Bruce City will now be advancing to face, there it is, Motown Muscle, the top seed in the Anthony division. Now to the Carter division.
Yes.
Late night show.
Yes.
After a spectacular comeback win from the Chicago Bears.
I missed that one.
Just had to work it in there. Sorry to all of our friends in Atlanta. But the Fury and Atom Splitters kicked off the late show, started at 7 p.m. Eastern on FS1. Atom Splitters, a 3-time PBA League champion. Chris Barnes, part of all those teams. And another super talented group, Jesper Svensson, Tom Doherty, AJ Chapman, and Chris Fye, the last 2 new to the team in 2020. Definitely an energetic team, a team with a ton of firepower. But, they...
I mean, that was a beatdown. They should have lost 2-0. Yeah. It was just, Phoenix was, as Randy would say, that they were all over him like a bulldog on a pork chop from the beginning. I mean, it was ugly. So I mean, it really should have. They should have won 2-0, but they did end up making it interesting.
Taking a look at the score sheet here, it was, the few corners, few 4-pins, just trying to get the hits for the Atom Splitters. Really, the Fury did everything they needed to do the first game to not even, to kind of run away with it.
And Liz opened in the 10th for 240, so
243 to 214. They had struck on 8 out of the first 9, with Shannon O'Keefe leaving a 9-pin in the 4th frame. That was the lone miss through the first thing. So 243, 214, they're rolling. They start off with the front 4 the next game. And all of a sudden, here we go again. And as we talked about, all of a sudden it's starting to look like, okay, the Fury are going to run away with this thing. Not so fast. They kind of stopped striking in the second half of game number 2. A few late doubles. Jesper Svensson, a chance to apply some pressure, gets the first strike in the 10th. 3-pins on his second shot to force Fury anchor Liz Johnson just to get a mark to collect the win, 2-0, advance to the next round. Obviously, that's going to be one of the big talking points here. JT, what were your initial thoughts? Liz 3-6 and then missed them both. I think we were all in a little bit of shock when that happened.
Shock.
But, just kind of reviewing it now that you've had some time to simmer on it. Kind of what was your impression of Liz throughout the day? Was there something you saw that maybe that was there the whole show that just happened to amplify itself there at the end?
I don't know. I just don't know. I mean, I know she's had knee issues, in the recent past. I know she was grunting as she threw the ball, but we've seen her do that before and not have it be an issue. I think she's won 3 or 4 U.S. Opens and Queens doing that. So I don't know. It seemed she definitely seemed like she had an issue with some feel on her spare ball. She might have had some feel issues on her strike ball too. I don't know. I don't know how much she's been practicing. For those of you who bowl a lot and you take some time off, your hand tends to shrink down. And then when you come back and start bowling, it more rapidly changes size, right? So it could have been maybe she hasn't been bowling much, and then maybe has lost some of her callus, and maybe her hand was kind of rapid cycling. because you get on TV and you get the emotion of it. You get, you're clapping, you're doing a lot of things which actually can change the size of your hand. And so it just looked like she had a lot of feel issues on the show to me.
That was the impression. I talked with Fury manager Kim McKerney after the win. And, she said that, pretty much right before the show started, that Liz, didn't feel too comfortable with the particular thumb she was using. I'm going to guess it was interchangeable for both. Not 100% sure on that. But, it was just one of those things. And, everything moves so fast in that Baker environment, the TV environment, that, maybe just didn't take time to get ready for that final shot. If she did need to make a change for the tape. But, talking to Kim, she still said afterwards, Liz is still the best player in the world. And so if we see her again in that situation tonight, if everything's feeling good, I'm going to consider what happened yesterday long ago.
Yeah, Liz Johnson is clutch. Mm-hmm. She's the best clutch player ever. That's it. That's the end of story. So she knows how to strike when she needs it. She knows how to spare when she needs it. Something was wrong with her feel. That's the only thing I can think of. And she'll fix it. She's going to fix it. And then when she fixes it, she's not going to miss when she needs a strike to. She might leave a ring 10 or stone 8 or something, but she's not going to do that again. So that might have been, if that was the last chance the men are going to have to beat that team, then they're in trouble. Because she's not going to give him that opening again. But I thought what was even more interesting was just, and we've talked about this, you and I have talked about it off camera, and I think we've talked about it, on this show before, is just how much Shannon O'Keefe has improved when she gets in a must strike situation. And so that's what Liz was before, and I think she still is, just barring that one, anomaly last night. Mm-hmm. But they've got a couple of clutch players now on that team where if they get down to needing a strike and a roll off, they can go pretty deep and have some clutch players, back and coming off the bench. And that's I think why the women didn't deserve to be ranked, last in the team rankings, because both of those teams have players that can step up when they need it. And, believe me, there's not much of an advantage in a one-game match, no matter what the conditions are at this level with these players. Mm-hmm. If you've got 3 players that can, guarantee you a strike when you need it in a roll-off, that's a big advantage. And so that's what Phoenix has.
Absolutely. And we're gonna talk about that dynamic a little bit more here with them moving on to the next round as well. In talking to not only the team prior to the start of the PBA League, but Coach Kim, this team, obviously with the way the draft worked out, she got the team she was looking to have. This team is very familiar with each other, and not to say that the Waves are not familiar with each other. 4 of these players, pretty familiar with each other through Team USA competition, and Kim not only competing but coaching these players, and then her connection with Maria is very big as well, going back to her collegiate days when she was at Delaware State and Maria was at Maryland Eastern Shore. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit more moving forward. But yes, the end of the game, shock for us all, and then all of a sudden you have to go right back into, you got to refocus, got to remember, hey, this still isn't over. Adam splitters go up. Tom Doherty throws a great shot, gets all 10. And, the ball gets handed off to Shannon O'Keefe for that first shot. Shannon had bowled very well on the show so far. I think just the 1 9-pin for.
She had a 10-pin, and a flat 10, and a solid 9.
10-pin and 9-pin. I'm going to go back to qualifying. And just, as I was watching that, Shannon, and one of the things Kim mentioned that, she never felt the team was all, hitting their stride at the right time throughout the course of qualifying. There was always, one person kind of fishing out reaction. And a lot of the time on Saturday, that was Shannon. Shannon had kind of that 4-pin, 10-pin look that we all are, unfortunately, or at least the right-handers are too familiar with in time from league, or, time to time during league, where one little move, flat 10, adjust,
Yeah.
kind of go back and forth. That's kind of where it seemed like she was at. Didn't strike too much, filled her frames, and ended up getting moved into the 2 spot after starting off in the 4. So we obviously saw her get started in the 4. And Kim said, they really worked a lot with surfaces to get the right matchup, because getting into the pocket was one thing, getting the ball to go through the pins the right way, whole other thing. And you needed that with as high scoring as the pace was. And, I think we saw that right away. Shannon got that first shot outright, came back 9-pin.
Yeah.
But that shot to...
I'll tell you what, the flat 10 she left, that was a safe shot. She said, the only way we can lose this match is if I big 4. Mm-hmm. So she put it right between where she could miss, because she knew the only way she splits is if she gets it right too early, right? So she just played it safe. That was a safe flat 10 shot, and that's how good she is now. She can just say, hey, I'm going to give myself a 50-50 chance of striking her. I'm just going to put it right over the center of my room that I have, and I'm not going to overhit it. Just make sure I throw a nice, good, aggressive shot, and maybe I'll option strike. But but the difference between that shot and when she had to strike, you could just see the difference, how much more aggressive she was on the shot where she had to strike, and she got it a little further right. And it was just, that's unfortunately, that's the thing that's great about bowling, but you can't see it unless you really know what you're looking for. But you could really tell the difference between those 2 shots, I thought. Tiny
intangibles. But yes, that was, we saw she had the ball motion the entire day. And that shot, that gave me chills of 2017 Tour Championship.
Yeah.
That was against Liz Johnson instead of being, to help her out there. But that was the kind of intensity, and off her hand, that was just one of those shots you're like, oh, that's good stuff.
It was pure, absolutely pure. It was great. It was great to watch.
And that was like I said, from Shannon kind of fishing to find the right look to what she had on TV yesterday. That's 2-time Player of the Year, 13-time champion Shannon O'Keefe doing Shannon O'Keefe things we saw on TV in 2019 when she went 11-2 on her way to 5 titles. So that's if that's not enough to start the Dallas Strikers to get a little scared here, we have to continue on.
Yeah, nobody's scared of anybody. The women aren't scared of the men aren't scared of the women. But I'll tell you, when I'm sure Shannon, they kind of knew, hey, unless we get really hot here, we're not going to get one of these buys. So let's just figure out all the different, things we can get away with. Right. Mm-hmm. And then it comes down to knowing how you need to throw the shot when you need a strike. And Shannon had all the information. She knew, and you even saw like Chris Barnes, as great as he is, he was caught in between on the show. Mm-hmm. He bucketed, basically didn't bucket, but he broke down the bucket, 2 shots on game 1, and then he went 4-pin, 10-pin on his 2 shots in game 2. He had the same ball reaction, as a lot of those players did. And I really feel like when they're that easy, you kind of throw a lot of stuff out the window. You just get as aggressive as you can, and that's the road to striking as much as you possibly can. Just be very, very aggressive. But it's tough when you get on TV and you miss a little bit right and it jumps through the nose. It makes you play safe and play in, and that's when you start leaving a lot of flat 10s. So it's a very fine line, which is why I liked LAX so much, was because they were so aggressive and everything was just, let's just rip on it as hard as we can and just fire it to the right and create as much angle as we can. And that was impressive. And so that's what the ladies are going to be up against if they run into a team that kind of figures that out.
As we continue on here, looking at their win over the Atom Splitters. After Shannon's great shot, we got to do it all over again. Chris Weigel up, rings a vicious 10, giving Maria Jose Rodriguez the opportunity to win. This video is going to be courtesy of the PBA's Facebook page, so thank you to them. Let's take a look here at the game-winning shot.
That was great. Great shot. Maria was 5 for 5.
5 for 5, yes.
Did not miss once. And so she has a little bit higher rev rate. Here's the difference. I think the difference between the men and the women isn't so much about the rev rate. Obviously, the rev rates are a little bit higher with the men, but you have some women whose rev rates are higher than some of the men. It's the ball speed. That's the big difference. On average, the men are 3, 4, 5 miles an hour faster with the ball speed, and that helps with the carry. And it helps to blend the pattern out a little bit, I think, too. You can play a little bit further to the right, like we saw Rash playing, in the earlier match. And if he misses a little right, it's not going to big four. It's going to 4-pin or go high flush. So Maria, has to play a little bit deeper in the oil. And she just had the right touch to be able to get the ball to go through the pins. She was carrying everything, light mixer. She went with the high flush where she left the 9-pin and the pin came around and hit it from the other side.
Mm-hmm.
So her ball reaction looked great. And I think Shannon, her ball reaction looks great. Stephanie only missed once. But, man, to get up there and throw that strike when your whole team is waiting on you to do it, to perform, it must have felt pretty good for Maria.
I had the opportunity to talk to her last night very briefly, and she said in that moment it all went pretty quick. I'll admit I wasn't sure if it was going to be the same person bowling over or if they had to switch up the team members for every shot. Apparently they do, based off of that. And Maria said it was a pretty quick turnaround. It was like Kim gave her the nod. It's like, oh, okay, time to go up here, make the shot. And, she's made that shot a million times, Maryland Eastern Shore, a world champion with Columbia, and knows how to do that. And, when I talked to her, like, how'd you prepare for that? How you focus on that situation? She's like, you let the training work right there. The training, the repetition, all that you do there, you just do what you need to do to make a good shot, which is something we kind of talked about with Shannon and Liz a little bit earlier there. But one of the big things for Maria was after qualifying, she said she wasn't just, everything wasn't clicking the way she would have liked. So she said just something felt off. So prior to their practice session, her and Kim actually went out to the lanes and got some games in, got the physical game where it needed to be. So when they got to the practice session, she could focus on ball motion, getting the right ball, getting the right surface, instead of trying just to get everything in line and going that way. So, she used that opportunity to work with Kim. And that's something where, when we talked to her prior to the start of the event, she said she works with her physical game a lot with Kim. So having that familiarity once again proves well. And then she goes 5 for 5 on TV. Said she, felt very confident with her ball reaction, her ball motion, how it was going through the pins. She just had to go up there. She made a good shot. It was going to be good, and didn't get much better than that.
Yeah, no, I mean, for sure. It's if you ask tournament bowlers, you're not going to forget how to bowl,
mm-hmm.
but it's different being in the pressure of, a big time tournament like this. I mean, and this isn't the US Open. I mean, it's an exhibition. So, they're not, I think some players, I think in the past have admitted to maybe not taking this event as seriously as they would a US Open, but this is serious. I mean, for the women, this is a serious event, and there's a lot of pressure on them because they want to justify the fact that they got the invitation to come bowl this event. But you haven't really had a lot of tournaments to get sharp in, right? So even though the conditions weren't all that tough, and even though it's not the US Open, they still want to bowl well. And so, but there's a gap there of sharpness that I think you want to try to get as many reps in as you can. And if you're out there bowling a little bit and you kind of know it's not there, I mean, these players are so honest with themselves. That's why they're great. They know when there's something a little off. So to be able to work it out, but I'll tell you, throwing that strike when you need it, and again, Maria 5 for 5, and then the one that she really absolutely had to have, she got it. that'll get her sharp real quick.
Absolutely. And, we've kind of focused on those three players, Liz, Shannon, and Maria. Jordan kind of led the way for the team in qualifying. Similar to Dasha, she struck on 75% of her shots, and she looked pretty good outside of the one shot at the end of game 2. So her and Maria playing a little bit farther left, Stephanie, Liz, and Shannon a little bit farther right. So we really didn't see any of the guys in that part of the lane. Maybe a few guys a little bit closer to third arrow. Most of them were left of the third arrow.
Zeke was pretty far out. In fact, he almost threw one in the gutter and it four-pinned. Yeah. Rash was going, up the back of it and just being very aggressive. I think he only missed once with the 10-pin. So yeah, I mean, and I think Rash that's been his MO recently in these made-for-TV special events where the lanes are playing a little bit easier. He just goes to the right and just throws it harder. And he's done very well in these made-for-TV events. So I like that strategy. I like the idea of the lady staying out to the right. Although Maria was great playing in a little deeper. So I do like their chances. I do think though that it's going to be a tall order to get by the teams that have all the power and they're able to stay ahead of the transition. So I think that's going to be, the thing to watch for.
Final player on the Fury, Stephanie Johnson. She's been steady throughout the course of this competition. Absolutely love her in the leadoff spot. You saw the fire and the intensity that, I believe when we had the group podcast of the Phoenix Fury, when we talked about, who's most likely to lead off for this team, who has that right dynamic. I think most folks lean to Steph for that, and she showed that. You start off every game with a strike.
It helps,
and she's done that so far. So it's been she's been very steady at the top of the lineup, and I think Kim has a pretty good feel of the team chemistry. And like we said, if Liz has her field back, and no reason to think that she won't have it back. She has a lot of moving parts she can work in that lineup, but also there's definitely some stability there too, which has got to be nice.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised to see her move Liz in the lineup, maybe to the 2-hole. Just even if she has better feel, just because you're going to have a little bit of scar tissue from what happened yesterday. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them shake the lineup up a little bit and move Liz around. And believe me, it's not taking away anything from what she's accomplished or what she's done. It's just, if she's not 100% confident, I wouldn't be surprised to see the lineup shake up a little bit.
And we will see that matchup tonight. The first semifinal in the divisional standings, or there's a lot of terms there, but the Anthony division will be up first at 7 p.m. Eastern on FS1. The Carter division, which the Fury are in, will be at 9 p.m. Eastern. They will be taking on the Dallas Strikers, a 2-time Elias Cup champion. This team made up of Norm Duke, Tommy Jones, Bill O'Neill, Brad Miller, and Nick Pate. 4 of those 5 were on the team last year as well. Brad Miller came back in the draft this year. Nick Pate, the new addition, a young stud on Team USA who was having quite a 2020 prior to the shutdown as well. So obviously a lot of experience on that team when you look at Norm, Tommy, and Bill, Brad Miller, and Nick Pate, kind of the young guys on the team, bringing some additional energy to a group that already had quite a bit of energy. So, when you look at that team, definitely a ton of talent. You got Norm, Norm's kind of equivalent to our Liz. So yeah, that's kind of some parallels there. But what do you think about that Dallas team heading into this next round?
I'll tell you, some of the comments Brad Miller's made, I'm sure his teammates are kind of like, dude, stop it. You're putting a lot of pressure on. Now they draw the women. So I know Brad came out with a vlog and was kind of softening some of his comments about the women. But now they're going to get to bowl against, against that team. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But obviously, it's a great team. The thing that's interesting about them, they don't have quite the rev rate. So you wouldn't put them in the category of an LAX or some of the other teams that have the Lumberjacks with the big rev rates. So they're going to be fighting the women probably very similar in terms of how they're going to be playing the lanes. And I know Norm Duke's. I know Tommy Jones is clutch and Norm Duke is clutch. But it'll be interesting to see if it comes down to strikes in the 10th, who's able to perform.
Definitely looking forward to that matchup. I see we have a quick comment in the chat there.
Yeah.
Brad saying he was on the Beef and Barnesy show last week, and Flo Bowling had rankings out talking about the just kind of a fun thing leading up to it, talking about ranking each team, based off of credentials and team chemistry, all that good stuff. The Fury came in at number 7 and the Waves at number 8. On that show, Brad said they should be 11 and 12 respectively. So that's where some of that commentary has come from. But very essentially, and you should follow Brad and Kyle because they're awesome.
They are.
He had a kind of post-game recap of their performance last night. He went out and watched it. Talk a little bit about the, just imagine you being in that moment and what that team went through to get that win. So definitely check that out. Give them a follow, a like, all that good stuff. Because Brad and Kyle definitely cool dudes. But yeah, Brad potentially will be eating his words tonight if they're able to get the win. But with that kind of sets us up for our conclusion here today, JT.
Yes.
And without a guest, we cruised to 50 minutes.
We did. It was very easy. There was bowling to talk about.
Absolutely, and I think that's definitely the exciting part. And we still got another 3 days of it coming up. So as we mentioned, the divisional semifinals coming up tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern for the Anthony division. Let's get those matchups for you so you know. Monday. So that'll be LAX taking on the Portland Lumberjacks. So that should be a pretty exciting match. Followed by the Brew City Ballers against the Motown Muscle. That Motown Muscle team looked really good on paper, and obviously they led qualifying. So excited to see what they have. Then at 9 p.m. Eastern, Carter Division semifinals. Phoenix Fury versus the Dallas Strikers. That's what we were just talking about. And then the Las Vegas High Rollers against the Philadelphia Hitmen, who led the way in the Carter Division. So that's what we got going on tonight. Tuesday, the division finals, 7 p.m. Eastern. And then Wednesday, the finale for the Elias Cup, also 7 p.m. Eastern on FS1. So that's the place to be for the rest of the way out. We definitely encourage you folks to visit PWBA.com. We wrote previews before the event, talking to every single player, getting their thoughts, preparation, what they've kind of been up to during quarantine. We have a great page, pwba.com/league2020. That's kind of your one-stop shop for schedule, format, rosters, player profiles, news, all that stuff. So you can kind of catch up on the league. If you haven't been paying attention yet, definitely check it out tonight. Ignore that football game going on tonight.
What football?
It's not even going to be a good one. The Bears not playing in it, so it doesn't matter. But that's kind of what we got going on for the rest of the week. So be sure to look for those updates on pwba.com. And, of course, the PWBA social media channels as well, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We'll do our best to update and get some content up there for you. Big shout-out to Flo Bowling and the PBA as well. They're for providing some of the extra coverage as well, getting some videos up there that we've been able to share. So we appreciate that. Since we're not there on site this week, we're doing it from Arlington, Texas, but it's still been super fun. So big thanks to those folks for helping us out as well. I think that's going to kind of do it for our PWBA podcast, but we've got plenty more coming up here on Bowl TV this week. JT, talk about Bowling Explained on Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. Yeah,
this one, I think it couldn't be coming at a more perfect time. We're going to talk about entry angle and what what percentage you strike at based on where the ball enters the pocket and how much angle it's coming in at. And I think you'll find some very surprising statistics that we're going to get into with Tom Frenzel, and it's all data driven. It's all we have a robot called Bowl Score that we keep in the back room, and they run experiments of different ball weights, different entry angles. Bowl Score's bowled 900 many times, so Journey to 900 would have been much easier if we got to do it with Bowl Score. But you'll be very interested to learn that. Just I won't give it away. You have to watch the show to hear it. But just some of the things you might think about entry angle that aren't true, and some of the things that are. And what's the most important? Why is Belmo slapping off a strike that you would think, why is he slapping this one off versus a different one? It has to do with where the ball enters the pins and the likelihood of striking. So it's just interesting stuff. So, and I think the reason I said it's perfect for this week is because, we're talking a lot about the difference between men and women and carry percentages. So that's definitely something that plays into what we're going to talk about on the show on Wednesday.
Excellent stuff there. Looking forward to that. Hopefully you have a section on 13-pound equipment as well, because that would pertain to me very nicely. On Thursday here, we'll have Inside the OC. Matt Cannizzaro and I will be chatting with USBC Hall of Famer and two-time Eagle winner Steve Klompkin, who also has a very technical and a cool job in the bowling industry as well with Storm. So always enjoy talking to Steve, one of the great guys out there, great ambassador for the sport. So that will be Thursday. And then, we talked so much about Liz Johnson today. We got to remember the good times too. In 2017 was the great time for the legend Liz. Just a phenomenal year, 9 TV shows and 13 events, 3 titles, made TV in all 4 majors, won 2 of them, 3 total wins. The most points we've had in a season since the relaunch of the PWBA Tour, which is pretty crazy when you think about that. Shannon O'Keefe had 2 more wins, but still didn't have as many points.
Yeah. I remember the one stat from that season was if you took the difference between first and second and you gave those points to a player that didn't bowl any tournaments for the whole year, that player would have qualified for the Tour Championship.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, there's your fun stat of the day.
Yeah, that was crazy. That's pretty crazy.
But Liz's 2017 number 7 on the top 20 season list. So be on the lookout for that this Friday. But for the rest of the way out, folks, we're going to be cheering on the Fury. Big shout out to the Waves. I don't think we mentioned everyone on the team earlier. So the Miami Waves 2020, Missy Parkin, Clara Guerrero, Liz Culkin, Dasha Kovalova, and Danielle McEwen. They did a great job representing the PWBA against the Bruce City Ballers and throughout the course of the tournament. Big thanks to Bob Learn for coaching them and taking some time out to chat with us as well throughout the course of the event. So definitely we'll be looking ahead to see what's up for the Waves moving forward. But it's time to start rooting on the Fury, see if they can get that win against the Strikers, and of course continue their trek toward the Elias Cup. So once again, good luck, high scores to our team from Phoenix, who has no one from Phoenix on it. But for Jason Thomas, I'm Aaron Smith. Thank you again for joining us here on the PWBA Podcast. Super fun edition, breaking down the PBA League. That's going to do it for now. So once again, Bowl TV, thanks for joining us. Bowling lives here. Everybody have a great day.